Hello and welcome to episode number 94 on the Online Trainers Podcast. Today's topic is, do you know your numbers? Hello and welcome to the Online Trainers Podcast, where we go behind the scenes to uncover the latest tactics and strategies top trainers around the world are using to get more clients, dominate their marketplace, and get their clients amazing results. There is absolutely no fluff here. I'm your host, Lynn Trim. This is probably one of the most important area of business that I've neglected for so long. And I neglected it because I didn't realize the importance of understanding my numbers. And in not understanding my numbers, my business would never grow. Now, if you know anything about business, if you've had mentors in the past, if you've read blogs, if you've been kind of to any business development or growth seminar, they talk about your numbers. But I want to break this down simply because not only do I want you to understand this area and I want you to understand why this is so important, especially when you're going to scale, but ultimately it's going to really dictate the grand schemes of things. Now, inside of business, we talk about business and we talk about business being solving other people's problems and getting paid for it. So if you solve someone else's problems, that is, if you help somebody get into shape, and they're paying you to help them get into shape, they're going to pay you money, right? Because you're solving your solution to their problem. Now, unfortunately, we talked about in the other podcast episodes that if the market is saturated, that is, if the supply exceeds the demand, if there's 5 personal trainers and there's one guy, and that one guy perceives, and look, it doesn't matter what differences you think that you are compared to these other 5 trainers. What matters is that the client sees your difference. And if, unfortunately, for most clients, they don't see the difference between 5 trainers. So what happens is supply and demand skewed, and it's skewed in the favor of the buyer. And when this happens, it's a race to zero. Okay, whoever's cheapest is going to take, because the client perceives that he's going to get the solution to his problems by any of those 5 trainers. So with that being said, in order for you to create your own supply and demand and skew it inside of your favor, you have to create a new marketplace. And you can create a new marketplace by thinking about all the problems that your niche market has, and then going outside of the circle, going outside of the comfort zone to go and say, what are the new problems every single day that are arising? What's the new problems that are coming up in this world, and how do you solve them? Because I can tell you every single day there's a new problem, okay? You don't have to solve old problems. Old problems are being solved. And here's the paradox, is that every time a solution comes into play and solves a problem, a new problem's created because of that solution. And it's really, really funny. In my other podcast episode, I gave Facebook as an example. Facebook's solution was to connect the world, right? But in connecting the world on a much grander scale, we lost connection through a deeper scale. The problem is people are connected, but people don't feel connected because they're not connected at the deeper. They don't have this deeper connection. That's a problem. And so the solution is, how can you connect these people at a deeper level, which is great things like retreats, which are great things like personal development, mindfulness. Mindfulness allows people to be connected. And while I want to make that point really, really clear, is because that point is going to be the foundation to which you grow your business in 2017. And I'm talking about this because I want to give you a fresh new approach. I want to simplify business because I think everyone in this space is overcomplicating business. Business is about problem solving. And so there are 3 metrics that I want you to understand. I want you to understand, number 1, the metric of getting leads. Okay, how many leads are you getting? Okay. Number 2, how many sales are you making from those leads? What's the conversion rate? If you had 100 leads, you made 5 sales at 5%. Okay, and ultimately, number 3, how much are your clients paying you each when they become a client, when they buy your product, when they buy your service or program? Okay, so you've got the amount of leads, you've got the conversion rate to sales, and how much are they paying you? This is the number. And so what this allows you to do is it allows you to understand, right, when you understand that if you had 100 leads come in, and I want to break this down so simply because I see so many trainers focusing, health and fitness pros, coaches, yoga instructors trying to grow their business, selling retreats, and they don't understand this. It's called fundamental, okay? And they get tied up in trying to generate cheap Facebook ads and generate cheap leads. But the point is, here's the truth. If you want to generate, here's the truth. I can get you 1 million leads. I can't get you 1 million leads, but if I could get you 1 million leads at 1 cent each, right? But you didn't know how to convert, what's the point? And so I think a lot of the times we ask ourselves the wrong questions because we're not focusing on the right target. And the right target isn't how many leads we get. At the end of the day, it's how many sales we make. Okay, and how much money is coming in. And that the goal at the end of the day in business is to create money by solving problems. If we simplify this, if we get 100 leads and we convert at 20%, that means we have 20% of our leads turn into customers, and we're selling a $500 program. We have literally made ourselves, and sorry, just for purpose's sake, let's say we sell a $1,000 program. It's a product or service that solves a problem. Okay. If we have 100 new leads, from the 100 calls that we make, or however you're making your sales, whether it's email, whether it's webinars. I don't think many fitness pros are selling through webinars, which is really, really funny, but I will go into that into another podcast episode. It's a great way to leverage yourself. But if you have 100 leads and you make 20 sales, and each of those sales is worth $1,000 to you, and you know this, you need 100 leads to make $20,000. Now, at the end of the day, you need to work out your profit margin. This is where a lot of people go wrong. And to work out your profit margin, you have to figure out how much is your profit in all of this? What's all the technology that you're using? Who are the people that you're hiring? How much time? And if you were to give yourself a time, let's say you give yourself $50 an hour and you have to work 100 hours to fulfill, are you profitable? Because if you're not profitable. So I don't want you to count the revenue. I want you to figure out the profit margin. And for every $1,000 program you sell, you figure out that your profit margin might be $600. And so really, you're making $600 on every sale that you make. And why I want you to do this is because I want you to figure out your profit margin, because a lot of health and fitness pros don't know what their profit margins are. Now, a good way to do this, and a really, really good way to do this, one of the biggest things that allowed me to figure out my profit margin was to ask myself this question. If I was to hire a coach to replace me, how much would I pay him to fulfill? How much do I have to pay this coach over 12 weeks to stay and keep all my clients accountable, to do calls, to make sure that their program, their nutrition's done, to do webinars, to add blogs, to do whatever? And so a lot of times, if I'm paying a coach $30 an hour, I can figure out how many hours he has to work, and then I figure out how much am I going to pay him over the course of the 12 weeks to help this client? How much time is that going to take? So when you understand this, you understand your profit margin. And unfortunately, I didn't understand this. And so I worked off revenue. And this is where the problem went, because I figured out that, cool, I'm making $1,000 sales, but my revenue sucks, or my profit margin sucks, because I didn't know what my profit margin was. Okay? This is a very, very key important number, because here's the thing. If you're getting 100 new leads, you're making 20 sales, and you're making $20,000 in revenue, that's revenue. That doesn't mean jack. If you've got revenue, but you're hiring 5 people and they cost $30,000 and you've just brought in $20,000, you're in $10,000 in the red. Okay, for a lot of health and fitness pros, and this was for me, last year, I had to sit down and figure out, well, what's my profit margin if I'm truly going to be a business owner as opposed to a sole operator. Okay, I can be a trainer and I can work in my business. And if that's the case, then my profit margin is going to be high because I'm actually working in my business. But if you want to step up and you want to grow a team, you have to figure out and ask yourself the question today. If you were to hire a coach, how much would you pay them? Okay, because then this number becomes skewed. So if you work on 50% profit margins because you know for every client you're going to give your coach $500, okay, to plug him through this system, and you make $500, then you know that you've got $500 to acquire a sale. Or you've got $499 if you're willing to spend that much and grow your business. Now, when you know that, if you've got $499 to acquire a sale, and you know that 1 in 5 people convert into a sale, well, your lead costs, you've got $100 to generate a lead. Okay, because you just divide that by 5. Because if you're spending $100 per lead, then you're going to literally spend $500 per sale. Okay? And you might have to sit down and pause, but this is really, it's just multiplication of these 3 metrics. How many leads you're getting? How many sales you're making? What's the conversion rate? And how much are you making? How much is the profit margin at the end of the day? It's not the revenue. So many trainers get caught up with the revenue. And why I want you to understand this is I want you to map out how you're going to grow your business so that now you know, once you know these numbers, if you can spend up to $100 per lead, well, you can just go into Facebook and you can stop worrying about your lead cost that's going $2, $3. And you can actually say, you know what, I'm going to be a baller. I'm going to chuck $10 on there. And it's not until you get to this stage, because I see a lot of trainers, and I was there myself, where I was like, man, I'm paying $2.47 per lead today. It's just too much. I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to freak out. And that's not the way you run a business. That is not the way you run a business. You run a business through understanding your numbers. And it's, number 1, how many leads do you need? Number 2, what is the conversion rate for those leads into customers? Number 3, how much profit are you making per customer? Okay, these are the 3 metrics, and write this down. And the best way, and why so many people screw this up, is because they look at revenue and they don't look at profit. You have to look at profit because you can use that profit to then reinvest back into leads. Okay, and if you're certain of your profit, if you know that you can give 1 in 5, boom, awesome, cool. Now you know that for every 10 clients you get, for every 10 leads you get 2 sales. Okay, but without knowing this number, you're going to be stuck over and over and over again. And if you're driving, just pull over right now. If you're listening to this and you're walking, what I want you to do, get your phone out, go into notes. All I want you to do is go, how many leads do I want? What's my conversion rate from lead to customer? Okay, what is my profit for every customer that comes on? Not the revenue. So you can sell a program at $1,000, but if you were to hire a coach, could you pay that coach $500 to look after that client for you under your name, right, over 12 weeks? What would they have to do? And so when you look at business in this light, it simplifies the whole model. Okay, then you can go back to Facebook and say, you know what? I'm happy to spend $15 per lead because I know that I need 5 of these leads to make $500 profit. So you know that you're spending $75 to pull out $500 on the other end if you're going to profit $500. Okay, and if this is confusing you, what I want you to do is simplify this at this very moment in time. Get out your notes, write down leads, right? How many leads do you need? What's the conversion rate from leads into customers? And what is your profit? How much money are you making in your pocket? Not revenue, because if you're not clear on these numbers, you don't know how much to reinvest back into ads. And the biggest thing for me was that I was focusing on the wrong metric, and that metric was, how do I get $1 leads? How do I get less than $1 leads? And for me, I could never really be comfortable scaling my business, especially as the market shifts. So that is your one task for today. And of course, if you need to share this, find yourself an accountability buddy and send this podcast to them. And share this podcast to them and make sure that you actually understand your numbers moving into 2017. Because when I understood this, I've scaled my business. I've scaled my other 3 businesses. This is how I scaled Kerry's business. It's a numbers game at the end of the day. Business is all about solving problems, okay, and getting paid to solve problems. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next podcast episode. Alright, if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave me a 5-star review on iTunes and feel free to leave a review, and that way I can respond and I can take that on board in developing content to serve you. Now, if you're not a part of the Online Trainers Club on Facebook, please do yourself a favor and be a part of the conversation. That's where I add daily tips, tricks, and strategies on how you can build out funnels, how you can get more clients, and ultimately become a better online coach. Thank you for listening.